All right. So this is my module 2 demonstration, and let's see how it goes. I'm going to start. I'm going to start. It'll be 7:18 p.m. All right, mark set go. So I'm going to talk about mediation and moderation, two separate models that are more complex and perhaps more influential in terms of understanding scientific causal processes. So I begin with moderation, which is one of the two that I'm going to discuss. And in this case, the moderation is described in this graphic depiction as my primary predictor, X causes Y, and I have a moderator that influences or affects the relationship between X and Y, but the moderator also may have a direct relationship with Y. Um, in my moderation model, I run a single regression, and I have a variable h, which is my primary predictor, w, which is a dummy coded variable, and then h by wd, and I have an intercept. So I label these as b0, b1, b2, and b3, and they tell me kind of like what's going on. And basically, what they tell me is the intercept. I'm going to have two lines best fit. WD is a factor, and it's either 0 or 1. And I have an intercept, and the intercept is 7, and it's significantly different from 0. So that means that my primary predictor has an intercept that's different from 0. And my 0 model is when my factor is set at 0. And that's my default base comparison. So that means that h, for every value that h increases by 1, my dependent variable y will increase by 1.04. And that's significant at the 0.05 level with a standard error that's 0.02 or 0.03. So, so that should have a slope that is slightly better than 1. Now, this WD is my main effect for my moderator, and that means that in simple slopes, simple intercepts, they should have different intercepts, and these are significantly different at the 0.05 level, so they have different intercepts. This has a significantly different from 0 slope, and the interaction between the two is significant at the 0.05 level, and therefore I see that there are different slopes. So this is a model that has different intercepts, a significant slope for the main effect of x on y when our moderator is 0, and the slope increases when the moderator goes to 1, as well as the intercept increases. Here I've got a model that is slightly different. I've got several variables, and I've got the same variables, and the interaction goes away. So you can see here that I've got a non-significant effect for the interaction as a result of this. The two slopes are the same, but the intercepts appear to be different, significant at the 0.05 level. And those are two examples. And the third here is an example of one where there is no main effect, but there are differences in terms of intercepts, and there's no difference in terms of slopes. And you can see there. So those are three examples of moderation. And when I went through that, I can show you that I understand moderation in terms of simple slopes and simple intercepts. With respect to mediation, mediation is the second model. And the second model that I'm interested in is one that posits that there's an indirect effect between x and y that is through this mediator. Now, the reason why we want to test these is that the mediator oftentimes gives us an idea about a more causally proximal effect to intervene. So if it turns out that there's a mediation effect, or you fail to rule out mediation, that the mediator is a better treatment target overall. So let's take a look. And we've got a model where I've got a predictor, that is our x variable, and I've got a mediator and a predictor. And let's see what we've got. So in my first model, this is just our C parameter. My second model is my B and C prime parameter. So this is A, this is B, and this is C prime. C would be just X to Y. So the C says that there's a significant relationship between X and Y. The B and C prime, both of them are significant at the O5 level. So that means when I include B and C prime in the same model, so when I include this and this together, both of them are significant at the O5 level. And then when I look to see if A is significant, it is. So by Barron and Kenny, I have a checklist where I say, yep, all of those look good. Now here, this is an estimate of my indirect effect, and I want to make sure that it is different from zero. And so you can see here, I have a Sobel estimate that is not bootstrapped. It's just estimated on the sample. And that Sobel estimate is probably a little shy of 1.1. I have a bootstrap mean. That means that I take multiple random samples from my sample of sample size, and I do it k number of times. And in this case, I think it defaults to 100, but it might be 1,000. And then based upon that, I can calculate my 95% confidence intervals based upon z's, essentially, or t distributions. Here's a situation in which the B parameter is not significant. So I've got a significant C. My B parameter is not significant, but my C prime remains significant. And I've got another instance in which here, this is a mediation model that I have ruled out mediation. This one I have failed to rule out mediation because the indirect effect. So I've got two models that I estimated. One was an estimated model based upon a moderated. I found that there were three different types of moderated effects. I demonstrated my proficiency at interpreting moderation, hopefully with some aplomb. And then I have a mediation model, and the mediation model is one that posits both a direct and an indirect effect. If this were the same data, I would say that for the most part, I was able to rule out mediation only in one instance, but failed to rule it out here. And with the three other models that I had before about moderation, one of them was a moderated effect that was moderated at all levels. The others were marginal moderations, and one was actually no moderation. So implications are these are different causal pathways, and you got to understand them and test them and make sure that you understand your data. Okay, that's about it. So probably took me longer than it would normally take me because I had a lot of instances of different models. And I remember I do not include the optional articles. Please do. All right, that's it.